Well, good morning. I want to call this regular meeting of the Kentucky Board of Education to order. Welcome to our members, those in the audience, all those viewing virtually. To members attending virtually, please ensure your video is streaming and that you are seen throughout the duration of the meeting. Before we call the roll, I would also like to extend great appreciation to the Paul Sawyer Public Library for allowing us to hold our meeting in this venue. We'll have an opportunity to see some real treasures, Kentucky treasures. As well, we want to extend our heartfelt wishes for a very successful 25-26 school year, which is opening this week throughout the state. We hope to our students and educators the most productive year ever. And we want them to know that we are standing ever ready to be at their service. So with that, I would ask Luke DeSanto to please call the roll.
Holly Bloodworth.
Here.
Harold McKinney.
Here.
Justin Pate.
Here.
Julie Pyle.
Julie Pyle, present.
Randy Poe.
Present.
Sharon Porter Robinson.
Present.
Lee Todd.
Here.
Steve Trimble.
Here.
Diane Woods.
Present.
Lou Young.
Present.
Harper Blake.
Here.
Alfonso de Torres Nunez. Secretary Jamie Link. President Aaron Thompson. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I do want to note that our new teacher member, Alfonso de Torres Nunez, is attending his first day of school in Jefferson County today. So we knew in advance he would not be joining us. That's a busy day, and we know what comes first, right? Our students. At this time, board members are invited to share good news all across the state. So I'll call on Julie to tell us about the Madison Northern Hopkins students who built containers.
Yes, this is very, very cool. So Madison North Hopkins students built a container clinic for a rural village in Liberia. So the students in Madisonville North Hopkins High School in Hopkins County built a health clinic in a shipping container for a rural village in Liberia. The project, led by the agriculture teacher and FFA advisor, Brian Welch, along with students in the school's Future Farmers of America chapter, brought together multiple areas of education. Students learned to network with local businesses and gain technical skills such as installing plumbing and electrical equipment. The idea and the funding for the container clinic came from Harbor Freight Tools for Schools, a nonprofit that aims to increase support and investment in skilled trades education in U.S. public high schools. An awardee of the nonprofit's Prize for Teaching Excellence, Welch joined other prize winners in a national network of skilled trade teachers who met throughout the year. During one of these meetings, he met a teacher who converts shipping containers into classrooms to teach skilled trades for students in Honduras and wanted to start a similar project at his school. The idea for the medical clinic came from a similar project by Texas A&M University. Harbor Freight Tools for Schools provided an initial grant of $10,000 for building the clinic. The nonprofit Supplies Overseas in Louisville, now called SOS International, provided additional funding. FFA students in Madisonville North Hopkins also helped elicit other grants, funding, and supply donations. This is the second container clinic that the students at the school have built. Last school year, students built a clinic that was shipped to the middle of a rural village in Liberia, where patients would otherwise have traveled 2 hours to receive medical care. SOS International donated all the medical supplies and keep in contact with Liberia representatives to keep the clinic stocked. The village in Liberia, where the second clinic will go, has no access to running water or electricity, but Welch is trying to secure a generator and working with his local Rotary Club to raise the money to build a well next to the clinic. Commissioner of Education Robbie Fletcher, who visited the school in March, said the project aligns perfectly with the Kentucky Department of Education's United We Learn vision for education, which encourages innovation in schools, vibrant learning experiences, and community collaboration.
Wow, what a beautiful example of global citizenship, active citizenship.
And the collaboration with so many
And-
organizations.
Oh my goodness, so many dimensions. Let's bring out the rubric, shall we? Thank you so much. Dr. Todd,
I'm pleased to announce the winners for the Offices of Educators Rising in Kentucky. This is an organization that inspires and prepares high school students to be teachers, something that we desperately need. The new president is Hunter Carr from Graves County High School. The president-elect is Lily Russell from Knight Institute in Boone County. Where's Boone County?
Yeah, he had to step out.
All right. The director of membership is Alyssa Pollard from Ballard High School in Jefferson. The co-director of communications is Haley Chowning from Seneca High School in Jefferson. The other co-director of communications is Kelly Escobar Hernandez from Central High Magnet Center Academy in Jefferson County. And the director of outreach and service is Nia Saracala, the Central High Magnet Career Academy in Jefferson County. And this is something we desperately need. It's a national organization, and this is a state leadership for Kentucky.
wow, it is amazing to see the energy and the real dedication and dreams of teaching and the students who come through the Educator Rising program. Thank you, Dr. Todd. Diane.
And the good news just continues to roll right on. Recent graduates share their perspectives on education at the Persistence to Graduation Summit. Kentucky Department of Education's Division of Student Success from the Office of Continuous Improvement and Support hosted its 2025 Persistence to Graduation Summit in Lexington on June 12th through 13th. More than 300 Kentucky educators attended. Now, this is the important part. The professional development opportunity allowed educators to learn how they can better support who are they supposed to be supporting? Come on, let's hear it. Students, this is good news. Who may experience challenges to reaching graduation. Even better good news, if that's correct grammatically. Superintendents, principals, educators, social service, and mental health professionals, as well as community partners from across Kentucky led 25 professional learning sessions over the 2 days. Collaboration. That sound familiar? That's the C word that we all support. They shared information on such topics as student transition and re-engagement, alternative education programming, well-rounded educational opportunities, safe and healthy students initiatives, and effective use of education technology. I need to go to this summit on technology. And that Logan would probably be very glad if I did. 4 recent Kentucky public school graduates participated in a panel discussion about their school experiences during the summit. And if you think this is not true, just look at that photo on that young lady as she talks as a recent graduate of her experience in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. How lovely. It's a lot to learn from our students.
Amen.
Luke, Holly, please.
Yes. Educators from 142 Kentucky school districts attended the Kentucky Reads to Succeed Summer Reading Conference held June 13 in Louisville. The conference hosted by the Kentucky Department of Education's Office of Teaching and Learning Division of Early Literacy. It was attended by 1,500 public educators and administrators. Some of the highlights of the conference were evidence-based instructional shifts for literacy, the benefits of structured literacy, high-quality instructional resources, available resources for implementing the Read to Succeed Act. There were 42 sessions. Dr. Anita Archer, she's the explicit instruction guru, I guess, was the keynote speaker, and Representative James Tipton gave the lunch address. It was free to all all K-12 Kentucky public educators. I had the privilege of attending this conference, and it was so well run. it was just a great opportunity to learn and network. And every teacher I talked to, I had a great time and felt like it was really beneficial. So
Wonderful.
thank you for doing that conference. I know it's so much work, but it really paid off.
Wow, much appreciated. And what a wonderful way to celebrate our commitment.
Well, and all of these teachers that are doing letters and immersing themselves in, these evidence-based practices, I mean, they need to connect with other educators across the state that are doing the same thing. And it helps you see just the energy and the cohesiveness that we're starting to build across the state for literacy instruction.
All right. Lou.
Nice. I'll just keep going with this celebration this morning of professional learning, and thanks to the department for additional supports here. I'm here to celebrate the first cycle of Kentucky Leads Academy completion. The Department of Education's Office of Special Education and Early Learning, OCEAL, successfully completed their final Kentucky Leads Academy cycle. If you haven't heard about it, LEADS stands for Leading, Educating, Advocating for Directors of Special Education. The Kentucky Leads Academy was made possible by a 5-year, $1 million grant designed to increase the number and capacity of certified directors of special education, special ed teachers, special ed leaders, admission and release committee chairs, and early intervention service leaders in the Commonwealth. Scholars were competitively selected to participate in a 2-year cohort where they received professional development, mentorship, and graduate program scholarships. Candidates had to be enrolled in one of 3 partner institutions, Morehead State University, Western Kentucky University, or Murray State University, and pursuing a Director of Special Education certification. Kentucky Lead scholars were required to participate in monthly Saturday seminars, professional learning communities, and serve as mentors to future Academy participants aspiring for leadership experience and support. 75% of selected applicants were employed in high needs school districts here in Kentucky. 4 cohorts completed the Kentucky Leads Academy, including 75 scholars from across Kentucky. 47 of those scholars earned initial or advanced their Director of Special Education certification during the academies, with 15 other scholars on track to earn their certification. Some data feedback from those who participated: 98% of the graduates from the first 3 cohorts were serving this year as state, regional, or local leaders with oversight of programs that affect students with disabilities. According to project evaluators, the team used the Human Development Institute, HDI, out of Louisville, University of Kentucky. Don't tell anybody I messed up.
It's all right.
Human Development Institute at my own institution, the
Could affect
University of Kentucky.
employment.
97% of scholars reported that Kentucky Leads was high quality, useful, and relevant. 97% of scholars' supervisors rated Kentucky Leads Academy graduates as standout members of their staff. So on behalf of Kentucky Board of Education, I'm pleased to recognize these scholars and to thank them for participating in the Kentucky Leads Academy, and many thanks to the team at OCEAL for earning the grant and implementing it so successfully.
Hallelujah.
University of
All right.
Kentucky.
Right in front of Dr. Todd.
So I would remind the board that these are just a few
Right.
of the good news items that we could share. And we take this time to do what we have to do always as we take up the challenging work, is be reminded of the assets that we bring to that work. And we have them in abundance. So thank you, board members, for sharing and for giving us the opportunity to celebrate the amazing work being done in the department and by educators across the state. Now we come to an item on the agenda called board sharing. This is a time when we ask board members to bring us up to date on the work that they're doing away from the table, all on behalf of our students. So I'm going to ask Julie to begin the board sharing session by bringing us up to date on the work that she and Diane continue to do represent us in the KBE Whole School, Whole Community, Whole Child Subcommittee.
Yes, so we had a meeting on Tuesday afternoon. It was virtual. We had a quite a wide array of attendees. Some of the information that was shared during that meeting was the rollout of the chronic absenteeism campaign that's going to be rolling out here for the start of the new school year,
Right.
talking about the website's been updated for Attendance Matters, some of the different types of campaigns that's going to be rolling out with graphics on buses. There's also going to be graphics at Rupp and Yum Arenas, also on shelters, bus shelters in Louisville and Lexington and at the Expo Center. So starting to get more creative and letting kids know that they belong at school. Belonging is going to be the theme this year of the chronic absenteeism campaign. It was shared that 9 schools in Fayette County have been named healthiest schools in America. So 9, so the work there going on in Fayette continues. There's the new medical administration training manual. I think I mentioned at the last board meeting that the medications in the school, what's required is changing. So over the counters, there has to be a doctor's note and parents' signature. What was cool about this is 3 large Kentucky agencies work together in collaboration on that manual. So rather than having different aspects or opinions in 3 different agencies, they all came together and collaborated together on this manual, and it's been very well received across the state. The other thing that was mentioned was I didn't check to see if this announcement came out, but there's supposed to be 24 schools in Kentucky that were named as healthy schools. And then the last thing, what was the that there is a virtual summit, the After Schools Summit Virtual Conference, Thriving Together Building Communities, on November 12th and 13th, and people are invited to attend that.
Say that again, Julie.
So it's the After School Summit. It's a virtual conference, and the theme is Thriving Together Building Communities, and it's November 12th and 13th.
So we might, Dr. Sam, would you make note of that on our shared calendar, if you will? Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Dr. Pate, how are we moving along with the high school transformation work? Just a little bit of a little initiative that we've got going.
Well, it's it's got a lot of potential, and this is just as a quick reminder to everybody, this is a NASB sponsored initiative that is it 5 or 6? I always forget. 6 states are participating, and they selected 6 states, and they definitely wanted Kentucky to be a part of it. This initiative is called the High School Transformation Network, but I really encourage everybody, don't get caught up in that word transformation. All right, I know some people will, and it can be an emotional, inspiring word, but let's stay on a purpose. We didn't pick the name. All right, that's what it's called. But let's stay in this purpose. The purpose is really to create a more engaging and more relevant high school experience. And I don't care how good we're doing, we can always do better. And that's what we're talking about. But I think what we're learning is it's not just about the good pockets of good that's happening, because we've got several in Kentucky. It's about the scalability and transferability of those pockets of good and the utilization of the policy that has been changed and updated and improved as we've moved along. So what we're doing is really, I think, as we are sharing out with other states, learning from each other, and Glipson and I were going over some notes and some things a little while back and started looking at the Washington State model. Yeah. And really what they're doing in Washington State is using this, their state team, to look at crafting a vision for what that relevant and engaging experience would be, and then moving into the ways to get there. And as I'm starting to think about this, Dr. Fletcher, I mean, really, to me, I think that's what we're trying to do, is cast that shared vision amongst our stakeholders on this team, from which we do have legislators, we do have the business community, we do have KDE, cabinets from the governor's office. You know, we've got all of these superintendents, you know, we've got folks together. What's that shared vision look like? And then how do we craft that policy environment that allows us to remove barriers to achieving that vision and allow for scalability within that vision? A lot of that we're going to discover that we've already got, but we're going to discover that together so that hopefully the policy bodies align in how we are shaping that future. So it's kind of an update on how we're purposing this team and where we're going. We're going to have our first meeting hopefully in September, and it's going to be just a quick hitter of what it is, what it's about, to get the team engaged, involved. And then hopefully we'll be able to go out and visit some schools, do some things, but things are coming together pretty well. The only standing item that I would want to have on this report, Madam Chair, is for everybody to brag on Glyptis Ann Jones, who drives this. My name is listed beside chair, but I don't know what is one notch above chair, but that's where Glyptis Ann is. Thank you so much for all you're doing. And lastly, Dr. Fletcher and Glyptis Ann attended the last Community of Practice event. And Dr. Fletcher, if you want to share just a little bit about that.
And the Community of Practice had brought together these states to talk about where we are, where we're going, and we were able to talk about the meeting that's coming forward. But also, too, we got into breakouts to share some of the work that's been going on. And, for example, our Portrait of a Learner work is something that I think so many states, so many of these representatives find so interesting, because some states would actually provided a statewide model and then required districts to adopt it, or they did not have an example of a Portrait of a Learner and allowed districts to develop their own. But we haven't dictated as a department or as an organization to say every district has to have a Portrait of a Learner, yet we're almost at 150 districts out of 171 that have a Portrait of a Learner right now. So that's something that they're very interested in, that and how that's happening, what's going on in districts. Also, we're able to share how we're moving forward with a proposal talking about local accountability and how that local accountability should tie directly back to the Portrait of a Learner as a foundation. So again, being able to share the things that are going on in Kentucky was a big part of that last practice group that we had. And then two, how do we tie that with our Kentucky United We Learn? And one of the steps that we're moving forward with is using our Kentucky United We Learn Council also to help bring about ideas, to filter ideas, and to be able to collaborate together as we move forward. So again, that community of practice was an opportunity for us to share where we've been and where we are going and what our next steps are. So it was great to hear that from other states, and a lot of questions of how do we have so many districts to get on board without requiring that through some type of legislation or something of that nature. So those are things we were able to share so far.
That's one of the things that folks are almost skeptical. It's like, you have 1% participation in Kentucky United We Learn, and you don't have a law. You don't have, and it is, I think, the vision that drives it, because every community wants to see their students succeed, and succeed along, defined by standards that are legitimate, have a lot of integrity, and support the future development of their students and the fulfillment of their dreams. So, I mean, I think we just tapped into the mother lode of motivation at the local level, and you can just sit back and watch it happen. But the board and the department being there to supply the scaffolding and the technical support and support professional development and community learning, that's our job. And their job is to become well-informed advocates on behalf of the best interest of the students. I mean, What's not to like?
I'd like to go back to what Dr. Carter said yesterday and hearing his, as our superintendent of the year, to talk about he is so pleased with the direction that education is heading in Kentucky. And this is coming from a practitioner. This is coming from a superintendent. The momentum behind initiatives such as Portraits for Learner, local accountability is amazing. So moving forward with it being a part of accountability of our accountability model is the best next step. So again, we're able to share things like that as part of this community and to learn and to pull in things from others. What did you learn in this process? What type of changes would you make? And so it's been really good to have others that are going through this process too.
As we're talking about, crafting that vision, the feedback loops are going to be very important in this. And, that's something else that GA and I were looking at is all the opportunities in this high school state team to get the feedback from United We Learn Council, the superintendent groups, the commissioner student advisory group. That's going to be part of this process. But again, the unique opportunity with this team is we've got two key legislators. We've got the leader of the Kentucky Chamber. All of these policy people from the other entities are going to have a chance to hear that feedback, develop that shared vision so that we all go into our work united.
Well, I commend you for a very well-constructed team for Kentucky. I think it just shows that our reputation for being up for innovation is well earned, and we're going to lean into that as we take on this transformation.
And bragging on those members who accepted this. The other state teams did not have these folks on it, but even the lieutenant governor, meeting with her tomorrow, and she wants to talk about this. They're engaged.
Fab. Lou, I'm going to get to you in just a second. Diane.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Chair Robinson, for the comments about all communities want their kids to have the very best, all students. The middle of June, I think it was June the 15th, was one of the best days of my life. I was able to witness 2 CTE programs in Lexington, 2 centers that have come together under one. And the name of the center is called The Hill. The Hill is a hub for innovative learning and leadership. And it's more than soft skills. When I went to the program that morning, and Dr. Young was there too, that you couldn't find a place to park. And I was so glad we had our law enforcement out there helping us find a place to park, because it's a pretty big parking lot, and there was a lot of people had to park up at the funeral home, but they made it back down for the ceremony though. And the superintendent there, and what really impressed me so much was the students. It was very well student led. They walked around with hors d'oeuvres on a charcuterie board that they had made. There were students that had made different crafts, and workforce was there. The mayor of our city was there, all working together collaboratively for what was best for students. And of course, when I went up and registered and met this young man that I was talking to, and I said, well, does the Department of Education, are you familiar with that and what they do? And he said, oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We have to meet those standards that they have for us. And they had made several different. And so I want to thank my dear friend back there, the division leader, Dr. Hargis. And I probably called it the wrong thing. It's not the division. What is it called?
Associate Commissioner.
By the time I leave this board, I will know what all the titles mean. But it's a good person back there. That's all I know. And she's for kids, and her whole division. She makes sure that the people that she works with are also. So anyway, we were talking, and they had different things. You always have goodies, and you can take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't take the classroom out of the teacher. So they had stuff out, and I was picking up this and picking up that. And they had these, Steve, coasters that they had made, and it says The Hill, the hub for innovative learning and leadership. And I picked it up, and I was thinking, oh, this is so nice. I know some people that would love to have one. Do you think I could take one back to our board? And I'm glad to pay for them. I had a few coins in my purse. I said, I'm glad to pay. He said, no, ma'am, we have plenty. Please take one back. So you guys are blessed this morning.
Yeah.
to come back. But seriously, I was one of those kids that could have benefited from this. It was back in vocational. I was in vocational home economics was the degree that I received from Moorhead. But it just, to see the whole community come together, the workforce was there, the parents were there, the grandparents were there, and to celebrate this hub, which is the Hill for Innovative Learning and Leadership, and preparing students for the real world of work, technical skills, whatever they choose to do. I remember when Kara first came in, we talked about getting them prepared for the military, whatever they care to do. And it's a great place. It's on the corner of Midland and Main Street in the old Harold Leader building. And it goes 3 levels. Gosh, it was just awesome. So I hope that you'll get a chance to come by there and visit that. And it just renews your faith in what, if we work together, what can happen for our young people, and they deserve the very best. I just keep going back. I was at the Dollar Tree, which is one of my favorite places to go
Oh, my God.
look,
Sorry.
visit
Sorry.
occasionally. And I was in there, and there was this young man there who had just got off work, and he worked at a lumber yard. And I said, "Oh, were you at South Side or East Side?" And he was talking. He said, "No, ma'am." I said, "Well, you look like you're a really good worker." And I said, "You thought about going back to school and, taking it to the next level?" And he said, "No, ma'am, I couldn't afford to do that." And I said, there are opportunities. And I wrote down some things that I'd heard from these board meetings where he could go and get his education, further his education. Because there's some kids that have that natural ability to do those things with their hands. And we discount them a lot of times. So that was kept me going this summer. Just thinking about that and what we could do. And I hope you will get back to the Hill to encourage visitors. And Dr. Hargis will, I'm sure, could share more information about the technical aspects of what would happen in a CTE, which is who knows what those letters mean? Don't say career, technical, and it's all wrapped up in a ribbon called education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So that, I have to tell you, there's this Nikki Giovanni volume called An Ounce of Truth Benefits, like a ripple on a pot. And an ounce of sharing benefits all of us. So thank you so much, Lou.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, and I thought it was a great event, and I was only slightly worried when I saw Ms. Woods stuffing coasters in her bag and leave. So thank
They
you
said I
so
could
much.
have
It was
Oh,
a
she
treat.
thought I was using the 5-finger discount.
Just a quick sharing out. You may recall in June that this board approved my participation in the Southern Regional Education Board Making Schools Work Conference in where was it? New Orleans for that trip. And it was a good event. I had the opportunity to represent the department, the Kentucky United We Learn initiative for the department and this board, and share with presenters from other states who are looking at advancing personalized competency-based education around portraits of a learner, much like what we've been talking about in high school transformation. So thank you so much for that opportunity. It was an enormous conference. Associate Commissioner Foster was there. A lot of good learning led by the Southern Regional Board. Before that, I had the opportunity to go as a commissioner for the Education Commission of the States to Salt Lake City for their annual summer conference and presented on Kentucky United We Learn, but most specifically on the High School Transformation Network work on a panel there with Washington State, Dr. Pate mentioned earlier. Great opportunity. Dr. Fletcher was there, Glyptis Ann was there, Aaron Thompson, Jonathan Jett, who was recently appointed as a commissioner from Kentucky as well. So great event. And then lastly, while I was at ECS, they butt their conference up against the NASB new member institute. So I was able to serve for the second year on a panel there with the new members. It was really, really well attended. And our focus on that panel was on what Ms. Woods calls the C word, lots of collaboration, how to leverage authentic and mutually beneficial collaborations and partnerships across the state. Another good opportunity to shine a light on the good work happening across the Commonwealth. So thank you for those opportunities.
And thanks for reporting back to us on your, the benefits of the travel request that we've supported. Other board sharing comments? I'm going to close this section by sharing two things. One, bring you up to date. As you know, I'm a great supporter of the Jobs for America's Graduates Kentucky activity, a really important collaborative effort on behalf of those students that are most likely to not succeed because that last needed thing can't quite be provided. And these students are given what we call a job specialist. It is a position that is selected mutually with the school district and JAG Kentucky. These specialists get specific training in trauma-informed pedagogy and project-based learning. Those are the two principal pillars of the activities that JAG supports so that students get a chance to vision a goal for themselves to which they are willing to commit their own effort and being provided the guidance and support to actually realize the plan of achievement of those goals. And all the time we celebrate student victories. And this year I attended the national job training, the national training seminar for the JAG specialists. And our governor opened the conference of about 500 of these trainers with an address about economic development and their role in it. Let me just say, they just ate it up. I mean, it was like they felt so well recognized in the grand scheme of things on behalf of all of us in the state and in the country. And because these folks were from all over the country, and it was really wonderful to witness that kind of affirmation for the hard work that they do. I will tell you again, just as a bit of evidence of how effective these specialists are during the pandemic, when we were having the hardest time in the world staying connected. JAG lost one student across the state whose parents moved out of the state and did not let the school district know. So it was, but that was all. Everybody else was connected throughout, even if it meant the specialists were bringing hotspots to students, whatever it meant, they did in order to stay in touch. So it reminds me of that legendary group in the history of developing an infrastructure for education in the African American community. There was this Dean's group. It was called, they said they did the last needed thing. And so that's what these specialists do. And I really had a great time celebrating with them as our governor recognized and honored their work. Another important collaboration. Now we got to get to some business. In addition, fortified with the sharing and the good news, we'll turn to our consent agenda. This agenda requires a vote, and it consists of the many items that we can address at one time. The consent agenda was distributed to members in advance of the meeting to allow sufficient time for review. KDE staff identified these items, all the items on the consent agenda, as those that are not controversial and routine in nature. Consent agenda items D through N are requests for certification of the noted administrative regulations required to avoid expiration. All these regulations are currently in effect and nearing their 7-year expiration date. Staff have reviewed these regulations and determined they should be certified to remain in effect. If regulations are not certified, they will expire and become ineffective. At this time, does any member have any item on the consent agenda they wish to have removed from the consent agenda and taken up in the action or discussion section on the agenda? Okay, seeing no interest, no items are moved. Therefore, I ask the board for a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Todd. Thank you. Any discussion or question before I call the question? I then call the question to approve items on the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you very much. At this time, we are going to dismiss to our committees. We're scheduled to reconvene as a full board at 11:40. So the State Schools Committee will remain in this room, and the United We Learn Committee will go to the community room. So please, let's disperse and dismiss it to our committee meetings. Zoom our meeting with our committee reports. Dr. Poe?
Yes, thank you. We had such an awesome meeting. We went over the business that we had to do on policies and procedures and all those good things like that. But then we had a fantastic discussion in and around things that's happening at KSD and KSB. Some of those things on KSD that we hired an assistant principal back in the position, and they're doing some great work there. We also talked about internships that KSD is having with UK in the Cancer Center, and a 4-week internship that is really doing some positive things for the students that are there working on that. KSB also had some students that went to Vermont that were chosen to be part of What's Your Story, in telling that particular story to others. So that was awesome. And then with the ATCs that we talked about, a lot of the vibrant learning experiences that were shared by other members that we also had here. But we want to remind the full group that you should share in some of the dancing and joy that Diane got to do last year at some of the events that she attended. And they're going to get out the schedule, try to get out the schedule earlier to us. And our goal is that every person chooses maybe one of those ATCs to go to so that we can report back, so that we share we can't attend them all because of our jobs too, but if we can attend one and then somebody share that out next year, just like Diane did of the great FFA and the different things that she attended this year. So we'll get that information out to you. So think about that gearing up. There will be a fall event on one thing that the commissioner will be working with, but we'll get that information out. And then try to keep that month of February open. That's when all the ATCs or the different student associations through the career and technical area will have their conferences where they need judges and so forth, so we can fill in a vibrant role. We also talked about the situation that they will also be looking into that was brought up by Harper yesterday. In the majority of ATCs, you have to take a thread of courses before you can take dual credit, but some have local decisions that are career courses that really aren't a defined pathway by ATC to get some credentials that do dual credit. So they're going to be looking into that. So they'll be following back up with you, Harper and Justin, about different things. So we don't want any situation where that we water down any particular course, or not really water it down, but students can have interest and as the commissioner said, we don't want to block their interest, but we also want to make sure that if dual credit is being offered, it's really a dual credit offering that leads to a pathway. So we discussed that at length, so they'll be following back up with that. So that concludes our report.
So, then on behalf of the committee, then, we bring to the full board the adoption of the annual policy adoptions and amendments for KSB and KSD, the KSB Advisory Board member appointment, the KSB and KSD Traceable Communication System approval, the annual amendments to ATC policies and procedures, the annual amendments to the Kentucky Tech Student Handbook, and the Office of Career and Technical Education Traceable Communication System. These policies are recommended to you by the committee. They were approved by the committee, and we now bring them to the board for final approval. So we don't need a second, but we do need a vote. All in favor of approving these policies, these amendments and other policies and procedures, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Poe. That was a fascinating committee report, and thank the staff for the amazing work of helping us to help and allowing us to support their efforts. Holly,
Yes.
calling you for the United We Learn Teaching and Learning Committee.
Well, we were very excited to hear from Mickey Ray, our Chief Academic Officer in the Office of Teaching and Learning, and Christy Biggerstaff, the Director of Early Literacy in the Office of Teaching and Learning. It's been about a year since we had an update on the Read to Succeed. So we had so much great work is going on. So we had a really full report in a short amount of time.
We had to pry them out of
that. So, Senate Bill 9, of course, called for these teacher academies and coaching models. And the staff there have been so busy, like creating things to fulfill that. It started out with a small but mighty staff that continues to grow. Now we have Christy, and she has 2 assistant directors. There's 5 state regional literacy directors, 8 regional principal support leaders, which, that's kind of a new thing, which is really a great opportunity for real systemic change within a school, because those principals are looking at it from different points of view to make and create the structures that make the literacy instruction happen in the school. And then there are 36 state literacy coaching specialists that are school-based people. So really, people that are out in the schools helping facilitate the learning going on in the HQIRs. So currently, there are 33 partnership schools. 20 are entering their second year. In this model, they're trying to make sure that it's not you just go in and then okay, here's what you do, and then they're out. It's like go in for 2 to 3 years to really create that culture within the school. So they're not pulling out too fast. We have 13 new partnerships. So we're building capacity, not dependency, which I thought was a really great phrase. So really teaching how to implement these and not making them dependent on our services. They're helping schools implement the HQIRs and leading PLCs. The HQIRs, we had a report on that and how the schools are doing with that, and the data, lots of data in this meeting that supports the effectiveness of the things that we're doing. So you'll have to be sure and check out all the slides because they're full of great information. Letters, over 6,000 K-5 educators and administrators have participated in cohorts 1 through 3. Please make a note, cohort 4 is open.
Mm.
And they are receiving people to do that until I think it was August 22nd or something. So we want, right now there are 900 people registered. So we want to keep getting that. I don't know how many, what do you close it at? Well, just get them all. Just get them all.
Keep going.
Get them all
We never
because
close.
they showed some research that, now, we have the third party research that's happening, and they're actually showing some gains, especially if a student is with like two consecutive years with a teacher that has been trained in letters. So it kind of just shows how important it is for not just like one random teacher in a school to be letters trained, but so that a child can have a kindergarten teacher that's trained in letters and a first grade teacher that's trained in letters, because that's where we see the real gains. So we need to get those teachers trained. The research is also showing increase in knowledge and comfort of application, increased motivation to implement those HQIRs, and then that's the student outcomes, which is like the real indicator that we want to see. The conference, we already heard about that. It was successful. There's already plans for next year to be at the Galt House. And so I don't know, it's just too much to bravo to all the hard work. And please check out the slides that will be posted somewhere for them to see. So
Well, right now the slides are in the portal.
perfect. All right.
And
So-
I think that Holly it was just so much. It was just so much.
I can't
And
remember.
as I was looking at the slides, I was thinking, okay, this is a good example. It's a reservoir of data about different kind of data, all, diverse kinds of documentation about the rollout of letters, the commitment to see that it is done properly according to the best practices of associated with innovation and change, according to the best practices and high quality instructional resources associated with supporting educators in implementing best practice. And it is something that we can be really, really proud to report to the legislators, to the General Assembly, to the people of Kentucky, and to every student. We believe you are a competent learner, and we're going to show you, even if you doubt it for a second. So I just feel so enthusiastic about this, and I can understand why they were over.
Well, we started a little late.
Okay. But I do want to remind everybody that these materials that are in the portal to support all of our deliberations are materials that are just chock full of information, and they serve as a resource to us even when we are away from the table. So if anyone wants to go deeper on letters, it is a well-documented report that we have. So thank you so much. I was glad I had a chance to kind of peek in because the State Schools Committee was pretty compelling as well. Thanks so much for those reports. Now we are going to move to another conversation, another important, please, Karen, come on. We're going to welcome Chief Performance Officer Karen Dodd and KDE Strategic Data Analyst Leslie McKinney to the table. We're going to return to our strategic plan for an update. And I just imagine we're going to return in our minds as well to the discussion about the goals. And we will tell you how we're going to continue to work on these goals to kind of access the expertise in the department to assist us to improve our documentation protocols for our goals. And I think this report on our strategic plan focusing on the staff survey will help give us some insight. So Karen?
Yes, that's exactly right, Chair. Thank you. So as Chair Robinson said, we are here to present today on the employee survey because it does reveal itself in our strategic plan. So we have 3 operational goals, and I'm going to talk about that at the end. So I am going to start off talking about the quantitative data as Glyptis-Ann pulls up the dashboard that we have for the employee survey. When I'm finished with that, Leslie is going to talk about the qualitative data, and then we'll return to the goals. Just to let you know, with this survey, just like the one that we presented to you on the customer survey back in June, is also based off of the Baldrige Are We Making Progress survey, Baldrige being the gold standard for operational improvement in the U.S. We have taken that survey, split it into 2. So the customer survey, which we shared in June, and now the employee survey that we have for you today. This is a Frankfurt employee-based survey, and we have close to, I think, 800 or so employees at the department, and over 450 of them responded to the survey today. So looking at the dashboard, hopefully. There we go. All right. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. We've got about 15 minutes with all of you. So I want to actually just show you how to walk through this dashboard so that you can look at it on your own at your own time. But I will start on this overall page. And you can see on the left-hand side, we have 5 domains in this survey: communication, culture and climate, leadership, operation, skills, and expertise. The first domain being communication. We had 5 different opportunities for them to choose. They can choose strongly disagree, neutral, agree, or strongly agree for every one of the questions that they are posed. And of course, we want them to agree or strongly agree. So those would be blue. We're looking for a lot of blue on here. In communications, agree and strongly agree come out to 91%. For culture and climate, we have an average of 88%. For leadership, again, 87%. Operations is also 87%. And for skills and expertise, 95% agree or strongly agree. Over to the left, you can see our trend. So we go all the way back to 2018 with our trend. We are maxed out on this page. We're going back as far as 2018. So we will look at this again next year and probably change up how we're showing our trends. Glyptis-Ann, if you could just click outside, you should get the whole screen back again. And then if you would scroll over any of the dots that are on the right-hand side, that'll bring up a little hover box and you can see the exact number for every year. Okay, go ahead and just click on any of those tabs up at top. And you can go into any of these to see every single question that was asked. And then we break it down by office. So on the left-hand side, you'll see all the questions, and we're currently in skills and expertise. So you can click on any one to see by office how people responded to each one of the questions. And then again, below, you can go to the specific year to see how that changes. You can also, I believe, hover over those bars. Yeah, there you go. So if you hold it there, you can also see the trend for that particular office for that question. And then at the very bottom of that screen, you see the overall. So for that particular question, KDE overall has whatever rating you're for that question. All right. So that is the survey. You're welcome to go out there and browse it as much as you'd like. I'm going to turn it over to Leslie. We have a PowerPoint and she will share the open-ended questions.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having us today. The qualitative portion of the survey is really going to be helpful, particularly at the office level, for you to sort of match or have a complement to the agreement ratings that Karen just shared with you. And so when we're thinking about when folks maybe agree or disagree, why they feel that way, it sort of offers us that opportunity. So next slide, please. There we go. And just quickly, as Karen said, this was deployed in June. And so with each of the domains in the actual survey, respondents had the opportunity to provide open-ended feedback particular to that domain, for example, leadership, communications, etc. But we also added a general question at the end. So if they had feedback that they didn't feel was specific to those areas, they were able to leave that feedback there. We had 400 relevant responses after data cleanup, and that was about 2/3 of the folks who took the survey left at least one response. Next slide, please. We cleaned that data to make sure that a couple of things happened, that we got a good idea of sentiment of folks in terms of the way they felt about particular topics. We also wanted to make sure that we kept to the spirit of themes and patterns throughout. So thinking about what rose to the level of a theme at the agency level is very different than maybe what rises to a theme at an office level. So when we did disperse this data out to each of the offices, they may have some things that came up on their patterns or things that you're not going to see here today. So we kept to what stood out at the agency level, anything greater than or equal to 20% of respondents. Next slide, please. We did have limitations, and the first one in our priority limitation was to ensure that because this was an anonymous survey, that people had their privacy protected, and that oftentimes people speak very freely in these surveys, which we certainly want, but we don't want any of those responses going back and being recognizable. So when we look at that, that does cause us to have to sort of shift our coding a bit to make sure that we are getting to the heart of what it is that are on people's minds and their perceptions, but also keeping to the bigger ideas of what are issues or challenges or praises across the particular agency as a whole. We did give those detailed reports out to each office so they are able to see at the office level when there are enough responses, those issues or those praises for their particular offices. Next slide, please. So the first one, and this actually was the one we had the most comments on, which is a great thing because strong supportive leadership at KDE definitely rose to the level of consistent across most of the responses in the agency. Employees overwhelmingly were supportive and praised their immediate supervisors, their office level supervisors. They talked a great deal about the leadership within their own unique teams among their colleagues, their skills, their practices. And then we had a great many responses that called out specific leaders across the agency for their unique talents and practices and skills in the area of leadership. So overall, very strong across the agency. I will say for this particular slide and those themes moving forward, people did tend to respond in comments at the office level. So really talking about things going on within their teams, their unique offices, their unique divisions. There were some comments that were agency-wide, but most tended to leave comments respective to their unique offices. The next one is also a theme around leadership, and it really ties into some of the issues that people have with challenges to particular leadership styles that perhaps they feel are impacting the workplace culture. And so we did have a significant number of comments and employees who expressed concerns about their direct or immediate leadership. And a lot of those things had to do with issues around, for example, trust, issues around maybe some micromanagement, just personal leadership styles that maybe they didn't tend to agree with. And there really was a call at the end by those who did offer up some concerns in this area for leadership who listens, builds trust, and builds collaboration and communication across all the departments and all the offices within the department. The next thing was around strengthening the culture. Some real positive things were people tended to believe that KDE was a great place to work. There was a lot of pride in working for KDE. It was described often as mission-driven, with supportive, shared leadership all the way throughout. There were, again, some comments, particularly by those who were concerned about leadership issues that maybe impacted the culture within their unique offices that did rise to the level of significance. And so we did want to share with you what those concerns seem to be. Again, that's going to vary greatly by office, and there are disparities among offices. It's certainly not necessarily agency-wide, but it's also not unique to any one office. Next slide, please. And the last thing that we really came up with was the area of communication. You'll notice that all the domains that we share in the strategic dashboard aren't necessarily, or I'm sorry, in the employee dashboard are not necessarily represented as a theme. For example, skills and expertise, they're often embedded within those larger patterns or themes, but communication is one that rose to the top. There was a great deal of praise and recognition of the strides that KDE has made with communication, particularly agency communication. They appreciated the influence of newsletters, forums, and other ways to get folks across the agency information and keep them engaged in the things that are going on throughout KDE. So a great many responses dealing with that. There was a call for more communication cross office within the agency, and also maybe some removal of some barriers if possible to get to more direct communication with districts without having to necessarily go through several channels to get there. And so again, some of those things are workable. Some of those things are just part of being a larger agency. And so those have been shared with individual offices to see where that might be an area that can be addressed for them.
Okay, from there, we'll turn to how this impacts our strategic plan or our goals. So we have 3 operational goals. Our surveys all focus on the operational goals. I brought back the improved customer satisfaction, not because the employee survey plays any part in it, but as over the last 3 months, so April, May, and June, we had another survey that went out, which we call the Pulse Check survey. And this one goes out to our customers. It's at the bottom of our emails. So if someone emails anyone at the department, they'll see a little survey that they can click on at the bottom and they can give some feedback. And there's only 2 questions on there. And these are in the KPIs on the right-hand side of your screen there. One question is, how satisfied are you with the support you received from KDE today? And we got a 91 satisfied or very satisfied on that. And then the KDE staff member was courteous and professional, 97% agree or strongly agree, or satisfied or very satisfied, sorry, with that question. So we just wanted to point that out because that is another survey that we have out there that supports the customer satisfaction, and also I think was supported within the audit report saying that, no, sorry, that was for employees. Never mind, go to the next slide.
Do you have the end count on that one?
The end count.
300. I believe it's 385 off the top of my head, but
And for the employee
about
participation?
856.
Thank
So our next goal, improve organizational process management. This is one that we have been measuring for 3 years now in the employee survey. So you can see that we started off in 2023 at 81%. We have a goal set for 87%. And we are currently at 87%. So the goal here was to improve the average favorable agreement of the operations domain in the employee survey from 82 to 87%. So here, as far as KPIs go, we're looking at KDE regularly reviews and improves its processes. This comes out of the process domain, of course. That one was 74% in 2024 and is now at 79%. We also looked at the question within the survey, processes are documented to protect important assets. That was at 86% in 24 and is now at 89%. Processes for handling an emergency are documented. That was at 86 and that is also at 89% now. The last operational goal that we have in our plan is to build leadership capacity, and that goal is to improve the average favorable agreement in the leadership domain of the customer survey. So we went through this one in in June. We wanted to see the perception of our customers for KDE's leadership. But the KPIs are based on our employee survey. So you'll look over to the right again. We had the KPI to increase the overall agreement rating of employee satisfaction in KDE leadership domain. That went from 85% to 87%. And then to increase agreement on the employee survey for I am able to develop my professional skills in my current role, and that has remained steady at 92%. So that is our report. Take any questions if you have any.
Question.
I don't know.
Encouraging data, yes.
Questions exactly.
Comment?
Yeah, a comment. First of all, it looks like we're doing a great job meeting our goals and exceeding in all areas and in most cases. But this brings me back to Mr. McKinney's comment yesterday in relationship to when we talk about it, maybe an internal auditor or so forth is making sure that your department has other people that we can do this same work that we're doing here in other categories off the side, and then presenting those to the board. That way we would know what we're doing in relationship to the questions that the other associate commissioners sometimes give us the data, but are we actually meeting a board goal like we have in these particular areas? So maybe instead of creating a whole new thing that we're talking about is reestablishing some personnel for you all to be able to, if a board member has a particular concern of an area, that we can dive deep into the data like you just showed us. So
At the district level is what you're saying?
well, no, at the state level, but even at the district level of how we're doing it. I mean, like, for example, one of the questions I asked yesterday, and I guess they probably got an update there, is how is our letters training doing?
Mhm.
And with that letters training, are we meeting our particular goals? If your department with us are the ones working with them to establish goals, then we want to know how they're meeting them. And I love these charts that you just gave us, but I'd like to see that in the other areas. Okay, we trained 5,000 teachers. That's awesome. We got 900 in the pipeline. That's awesome. But then how does that match up with our academic performance in literacy going across the board? Those other departments may be doing that, but we need somebody potentially from that audit report to answer back to us as a board as opposed to just the different departments doing it.
So we have the customer stakeholder goals in our strategic plan. Literacy, math are in there. The reimagining, the assessment model is in there, along with teacher pipeline and reducing chronic absenteeism. So we will have a lot of what you're asking for in another dashboard. We're going to have a strategic dashboard. So we will track those goals at a high level. And then we have additional KPIs where we're going to get exactly to that kind of information that we'll be able to share with you on a more regular basis. So we're just now starting to monitor that plan because we just developed it this year. So we have only had one monitoring meeting so far, but we're spreading those out, and we hope to monitor every single one of our goals quarterly. So I'll be able to bring to you on a rolling basis how we're doing with all of those goals.
Just like, for example, and this will be my last question there, we were dinged on saying about NAEP scores. Well, last year, we really talked about NAEP scores and we really went into those. But that was the Office of Accountability doing that, and that's great. But we also saw pockets of out in Eastern Kentucky, for example, schools that were doing some amazing things in their scores. So my question is then, how do we take that as, here's this accountability saying that, but how then do we dive down and look at others that are doing great and what we're learning from them, just like here, and what we can change and add those goals. So that's that district part to me is saying how are we looking at that, and how are we then, besides just people presenting information, how are we being critical back to answer those questions that we're not doing those things, and we could be discussing those in our work those virtual meetings that we're talking about in between, that, hey, we see 5 school districts doing really tremendous stuff. What are they doing? And how does that line up with our overall? Are they above or below the line? And what can we learn from them?
Absolutely. And I know Leslie would love to get into that kind of data. You know, anything that you have, please bring
Yeah.
it to us. I am limited on
I was just
capacity.
going to say, yeah, I don't want to overload at the same
Yeah.
time, but in answering the audit report, I look at an audit as process and improvement. How do we look at something and how do we improve from that? Not
Absolutely.
just, okay, here's another report.
Yeah.
We don't need another report. But if we're going to dive deep, I guess, Commissioner, and looking at that report, that's just one of my things. Piggybacking off of what Mr. McKinney said yesterday about an internal auditor as opposed to a chief of staff. But with that internal auditor, we don't necessarily need to recreate the wheel, use some of the wheels that we already have, but then reporting directly to us based on questions that we have, I guess. So think about that is all I'm saying, in your process.
Other comments or questions? I would like to ask all of you, Karen, the commissioner, we have a staff that has been reportedly just amazingly responsive in a very chaotic policy environment. And sometimes the environment has been truly crisis oriented. So I'm wondering, have we adequately recognized the work that has been done to assure the staff that we see this and they're not getting set up? I mean, if I had been working for you, Commissioner, after doing all the work that you guys did on amending budgets and stuff, and then have that money restored, I think I would at least have had to have a month-long vacation because it was that intense and that consequential. And then, oh, never mind. So I'm looking at this comment. We want to be supportive and respectful. We want to nurture ambitions and high-level professional goals. We want to cultivate a sense of confidence and trust in an environment that, we can't control it, and then nobody's picking on us. It's the same for everybody across the country, across the state. So I just wonder, what do the staff need with respect to their own sense of professional integrity and recognition? I want to make sure they get it.
Well, I can't say enough about the recognition that our department deserves. They are super responsive. To first and foremost, when we heard about title funds, within 2 days, we're having meetings with superintendents. We had a webcast with superintendents to say, these are some suggestions. They're not the best of suggestions, but this is the best roads that we can give you moving forward. Of course, work with your local people to say, this is how we're going to handle this budget or that budget. But just to mention, for example, our OFO, also our OCIS, all those that deal in title funds, it was a quick turnaround to try to respond and make sure that we're helping districts. Then, of course, then how do we also advocate for those funds? How do we make sure that we have those type of things? So as far as recognition, the group, I will say they never seek recognition, but they deserve more recognition than I can give them. So any opportunity that we have to recognize them on each individual basis, we try to do that. We do have SEA awards in our office that we allow colleagues. If you're on the 5th floor, we actually have a wall for all SEA awards, which are the strategic educational awards that we have for vibrant learning. for innovation, for collaboration. And then also too, we also have a quarterly team award that we also recognize outstanding work. And again, this is all from their colleagues recognize them. Now the commissioner selects based on their recommendations, but we try our best to have that wall and have that recognition every month for three members in SEA, then also a team quarterly. So those are the things we try to do that we are doing on a monthly basis and quarterly basis. But again, the recognition is things we try to move forward with as much as we can.
And I'll just add that we do talk about all these results at the leadership level. Even this particular goal, building leadership capacity, comes from, some of this survey data. What is it that we need within the department? How do we continue to build capacity within the department? So it is an ongoing conversation. We bring it to our all team KDE meetings, asking them what can we do better. So we are always trying to improve. We share all of this data with them. They can see all of the same results that you all are seeing and asking. And I've been working more closely with our internal controls team, which is out of the Office of Finance and Operations. It's made up of a lot of our policy advisors, and we look at this as well. They actually helped us to develop these operational goals based on the survey data that we have, as well as some other audit data from the past. So, we're trying really hard, I think, to include everyone in the decision making and what changes we need to make moving forward.
Thank you. Any other observation? Oh, this is fascinating. You want to say a word about our goals and working with us going forward?
Well, with the board's goals.
Yes.
Yeah, so I definitely was listening in yesterday. I heard all of that. I don't think that we're too far off. I think that a lot of the, if you want to create SMART goals around that, happy to help with that. We have in our strategic plan already, it's very, very closely aligned. So I don't think it's going to be difficult to come up with that. I think we can keep that in alignment. And even the things you talked about as far as finding evidence around those goals, those are things, again, once we get this dashboard together, which we're very close to getting there, I think that the evidence that we show in that dashboard are going to support your goals as well. So happy to help with that.
And to go back to Dr. Poe's point, there may be certain data points that this board would like to see. What else can we have as part of a dashboard?
Absolutely.
But also too, as far as I want to go back to the comment about internal auditor. One of the goals that maybe we may not have written down, but we always have the goal of being transparent. And I think that transparency also lends itself to being self-evaluative. So when you have an internal auditor, and that's something we'll take serious consideration about, to look at the data and be very objective about it and say, oh, this is where we are, this is how we feel like we're doing, but this is the data that supports that. We want to be transparent, self-reflective, and make sure we're serving students to the best of our ability. And that's the thing I hear from this board all the time is how are we serving our students? So again, some good suggestions there. I really appreciate that.
And Dr. Poe, I do want to assure you too, Leslie and I were talking on our way over here about a lot of the research that we do behind the scenes. And I talked to Dr. Fletcher about this in one of my direct reports recently. We want to start publishing that more so that other folks can see what we're doing.
Yeah. As the commissioner just said, instead of us trying to wordsmith the thing, it's just do what you just said. What I like. And click.
And again, that's something else that Karen, we've talked about, and within her group, there's so much research that's done for the Cool Council, for other groups that they bring forward that we really appreciate, and we do need to start publishing more.
Well, I appreciate that. And this is the presentation, the data, and we've got, again, I'm encouraged with the resources that we have and the potential that we have for greater transparency and informed participation. I mean, the extent to which we can inform our colleagues, our communities, we can court their support and their counsel on a really high level. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Our next item is the presentation of the 2025 Grissom Award for Innovation in Special Education. All of our awards are special, and this one is as well. The board voted to recognize 2 candidates for this award at our last regular meeting in honor of the late Dr. Johnny Grissom, who served as Associate Commissioner for the Office of Special Instructional Services at KDE. Dr. Grissom provided steadfast commitment, service, and leadership, striving to help all students achieve at high levels, regardless of their disabilities. Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair Robinson. And the criteria for receiving the Grissom Award include leadership or implementation of innovative practice and curriculum, instruction or assessment that leads to improved learning, post-secondary or workforce outcomes for students with learning or behavior differences, and districts or schools demonstrating significant improvement or sustained excellence in learning or behavior outcomes for students with learning or behavior differences. I believe our first award winner is not here today, but we do want to take that opportunity to recognize. But today, KBE honors 2 candidates in the 2025 Grissom Award. First, we recognize Kimberly Chevalier with Jefferson County Schools. Now, that's from my Chevalier. Okay, that was from my French background, and
That's
didn't
right.
have the Kentucky
Yeah.
there. So,
Yeah.
according to her nominator, and say that again.
Chevalier.
Chevalier, thank you. Chief Kimberly Chevalier exemplifies the values and innovation celebrated by the Grissom Award. Since assuming leadership of the Exceptional Child Education Department at Jefferson County Public Schools during a time of state-directed corrective action, Chief Chevalier has transformed the largest special education program in Kentucky, serving over 13,000 students with disabilities. Her leadership has not only steered the district out of corrective status by 2020, but laid the foundation for sustainable, systemic improvement. Chief Chevalier's approach is rooted in equity, innovation, and deep personal commitment to children. She often reminds her team, we are working for a child, not a checklist. And her actions mirror this belief. Rather than simply complying with regulations, she has reimagined compliance as a gateway to improved outcomes, putting meaningful supports and accountability systems in place that empower staff while centering on student needs. Under her guidance, JCPS, the Special Education Department, has adopted a data-driven infrastructure that ensures students with learning and behavior differences are supported through personalized instruction, progress monitoring, and targeted interventions. She has championed professional development that is practical, inclusive, and aligned with best practices, equipping educators with the tools to meet diverse needs in real time. Her insistence on functional systems, not just short-term fixes, demonstrates a rare commitment to lasting change. Perhaps most importantly, Chief Chevalier is a hands-on leader. She listens to staff and families and partners with school-based teams to co-design solutions that work. This direct engagement has fostered trust across the district and led to notable improvements in academic progress, inclusive practices, and post-secondary transition planning for students with disabilities. So we want to congratulate Chief Chevalier on this award, even though she can't be with us. Amazing.
The first day of school cannot be
Yes.
missed, I have to say.
And also with Alfonso not being here today, it is the first day of school for Jefferson County. So we fully understand, and our prayers and support are with everyone that's starting out this week, including Jefferson County.
Commissioner, I'd like to just add a comment. I got the privilege of meeting her at the special ed conference last year that was restarted, and they had exemplars of different areas, and she was one of those that was practicing. I got to spend a lot of time talking to her about the activities, and if you ever get the opportunity, you want to do that because she is an exceptional person and and did all those things you said. So I just want to point that out. You know, that's one of those activities that I went to last year that I was pushed by Miss Woods, you know, to attend and those different things. So it was great. It was down in Lexington. And I just encourage anybody, if you get, I think they do it every other year. So if you get the opportunity, you'll meet some other exceptional people like Miss Chevalier there. It's a great opportunity to go to.
Absolutely. And again, it's always a joy to be at a conference or to be at one of these functions and to look up and see our board members. So thank you for that time and investing that for everyone that shows. And then we'd also have another recipient. Our next recipient for the 2025 Grissom Award is the Bridges program at Mary G. Hoxett Primary School, which includes Pamela Hambrick, Maggie Caldwell, and Jerry Funkhauser. According to their nominator, the Bridges program at Mary G. Hoxett, or is it Hoxett? Hoxett, thank you. Mary G. Hoxett Primary School, a resource classroom for preschoolers with significant language and social delays, gets its name because it's designed to bridge the gap between a resource classroom and a general education classroom. Before the creation of this classroom, resource services for preschool were provided in the general education classrooms, but teachers did not feel some students were making sufficient progress on their IEP goals and objectives. Again, the nominator goes on. The bridge is individualized, and when a student gains the social skills to be able to play with others, share, and functionally play with materials, or gains the language skills to be able to get wants and needs expressed without tantrums or aggression, something the commissioner's still working on, then a student can bridge some successful time into the general education preschool classroom. Every student served in this resource room is enrolled in a general education classroom. The amount of time they spend in the resource classroom depends on their individual needs. The classroom is designed to be focused on sensory needs and includes a sensory corner that can be changed regularly with different materials, light covers, and more. There's a lot of focus on music, movement, and sensory activities to teach concepts and skills students need. This program allows students to be able to sit and focus more because less visual and auditory distraction. It is a smaller classroom, capped at 10 students, whereas a general education classroom is capped at about 20. There are also 3 adults in the resource classroom, allowing for more individualized instruction. Through Hoxett's participation with the Kentucky Autism Training Center, representatives from the center visited the classroom and gave feedback to help Hoxett design the classroom. The classroom opened about 1.5 years ago. At the end of last year, some students were able to transition back into their general education classroom full-time, and more students who needed the services were added to the program. Behavior management strategies in the Bridges classroom include sensory bins, which have fidget toys or other items to calm students down, a sensory room if students require a sensory break, and a routine change of resources available in the sensory corner depending on student needs. The Bridges program has been successful, and several parents whose students have been involved in the program have given very positive feedback. The data confirms that we've seen a lot of good sources with this classroom model. We've been able to meet a lot of IEP goals and have students bridge more successful time into the general classroom. Students who participate in this program have an opportunity to begin their school experience in a very supportive and individualized way, and it is proving to be very beneficial as an important first step towards positive outcomes for our youngest exceptional learners. That being said, we'd like to congratulate our winners. We have everyone come, Chair Robinson, I'm sorry. Anything you'd like to say?
And we also want to recognize Danville Superintendent Ron Ballard, who has joined the winners. Please come to the table so that we can get a picture.
I think we neglected to say Danville Independent, so congratulations.
There you go.
So one more example of just kind of jaw-dropping, amazing educational support that we witnessed across the state. We congratulate our award winners, and now, board, we are going to take a short, I mean really short lunch break because we have more important business to conduct after lunch, but no business will be conducted during lunch. So are there any logistical notes we need to have?
Chair, what time would you like to reconvene? And it's in the the river room, excuse me,
I'm
community room.
all right. Is 1:15? 1:20. How about that? Yeah, it's kind of like lunch at school, okay?
It's 30-minute schedule, but you really get 15 minutes.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Pretend we're in the game for real. That's how it happens. Colleagues, I'd like to call us to order after that very brief lunch break. We'll consider several items for review and action. The first, we welcome KDE Deputy Commissioner and General Counsel Todd Allen and KDE Deputy General Counsel Corey Nichols to the presenters table for regarding the approval of 701 KAR 5170 and 701 KAR 5170E waiver request.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. We have before you for review and approval 2 new administrative regulations. One is an ordinary regulation, one is an emergency regulation, but they're identical in nature. So you can really just look at one in your packet. The reason that we have both an ordinary regulation and an emergency regulation is because it takes about 7 to 9 months for an ordinary regulation to become effective once we file it. So once you approve, assuming that you approve the ordinary regulation today, it won't become effective for about 7 to 9 months. The emergency regulation, however, will become effective immediately. And the reason that we want it to become effective immediately is because Senate Bill 207 from the past legislative session struck all of the language in statute that provided the board with the authority to waive administrative regulations for school districts, and it replaced it with new language that indicates the board should promulgate these regulations for waivers of statutes and administrative regulations. So we want school districts to have access to that immediately and not have to wait 7 to 9 months to seek a waiver from the board. I will turn it over to Corey to walk through the regulations with you.
Sure. We can go on to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is just a breakdown of the old system, which allowed the board to waive certain regulations. The new waiver process not only allows the board to waive certain statutes, but it also creates or requires KDE to create the forms and regulations around the waiver system. The new process has waiver of statutes and regulations within the board's enforcement authority, can request a School of Innovation designation to allow contract with education service providers. The granted waivers are effective for 3 full school years. They're subject to early termination before that 3-year period by a 2/3 vote of this board. And the board is to promulgate regulations with procedures and forms, which is what we're going to go over very briefly. Next slide, please. Certain things cannot be waived. Those are listed here. Health and safety requirements, any civil right or federal law, compulsory attendance and certification requirements for teachers, state assessments, financial audits, open records and open meetings. Procurement requirements and minimum instructional time cannot be waived. Next slide, please. There are 4 main types of waiver requests. Each of these will be paired with an application cover sheet as well. We have new applications, renewal applications, amendment, and then special education maximum class size applications. First is the application cover sheet. This is going to be a fairly ubiquitous form for all types of applications. This application cover sheet, the applicant will indicate the application type, whether it's a new or renewal or an amendment application. Notably, a new application does not have to be for any waiver request that has never existed before. A new application is simply an application for any waiver that is not currently in effect at the time the application is made. So if a waiver is granted and then expires, and the applicant seeks to regain that waiver, they would submit a new application, even though that waiver existed and expired. The application.
That's new to the district or any new waiver request for the state?
It would be a new application for the district or really either one.
Okay.
If the waiver is not in effect for the applicant, they would submit it as a new application.
Okay.
Meaning if Jefferson County has been granted a certain waiver and Hardin County schools want a similar waiver, they would submit a new application.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. The application cover sheet will name the schools or programs in the district to which the waiver would apply. There are 15 paragraphs within the cover sheet that explain the program requirements and identify the required attachments. And the application cover sheet will be signed by the local board chair on behalf of the applicant's local board. Next slide, please. When there's a new application, it'll be paired with this specific waiver request form. It'll be attached to the application cover sheet for new applications. It'll indicate whether the district seeks School of Innovation designation, and it'll explain how the waiver of each statute or regulation will improve operations or student achievement. Next slide, please. For any renewal or amendment application, again, it'll be attached to the application cover sheet. For a renewal, it'll be attached to the cover sheet. It'll identify the previous waiver and any amendments that were made to that waiver. And it will provide evidence of the improvement that was gained as a result of the waiver. So if they're seeking a renewal, you need to tell the board why that renewal is merited and how the waiver benefited the school operations or the student achievement. If there's an application to amend an existing waiver that is on the books, it'll be attached to the cover sheet. It'll identify the previous waiver, and really it would be the existing waiver that was previously granted, including any existing amendments. With the amendment, the district may request to add or remove schools or programs. It can request additional statutes or regulations to be waived, or it can request termination in whole or in part of the previously granted waivers. Next slide, please. Finally, we have the special education maximum class size application. It can be requested by the superintendent or the school-based decision-making council. It collects information regarding the school, teacher, classroom type, caseload, etc. It's signed by the superintendent or school principal. Previously, these waivers were submitted to the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. Now, these waivers will be directed to this board to be decided for approval. Next slide. Once the application is submitted, the department will undergo 2 separate stages of review for every application prior to presentation to this board. The first is going to be a technical review. During this stage, we'll perform the technical review and notify the requesting party of the following. First, the date that we received the request, the number assigned to it, the meeting date for this board when that waiver request will be acted upon. If we received it less than 45 days prior to this next board meeting, then we'll recommend automatic denial unless the commissioner determines that it's needed to address an emergency, or potentially the applicant may select a later board date to give them enough time to satisfy that timing requirement. If the application does not meet the requirements of SB 207 or the regulation, then we would recommend denial of the request by this board. Finally, we'll give instructions on how they may voluntarily withdraw their request prior to the meeting date and instructions on how they can request a different board meeting date. Next slide, please. After that substantive review, to the extent that there is any surviving portion of the application to consider, the department will review the following criteria. First, student academic achievement for the past 3 school years, the processes that the requester will use to measure how the waiver would be successful if it was granted, the likelihood that the schools or programs would realize meaningful operational efficiency improvements, or the likelihood of students in the schools or programs to realize improved academic achievement. We would review how the district anticipates and addresses potential adverse impacts on student achievement. We would review the establishment of high expectations for student learning and evidence-based practices for learning. And then finally, for the special education maximum class size application, any other factors set forth in 707 KAR 1-350. Next slide, please. The approval-disapproval standard for those stages of review. After review, the commissioner shall recommend approval of the waiver, or at least a portion thereof, only if he or she finds the requested waiver is more likely than not either to improve school or program operations without hindering student achievement, or to improve student academic achievement at the school or program. Ultimately, it is this board's decision whether to approve or deny the waiver request in whole or in part. After the board has made a decision and taken action on the request, we would provide notification of that action to the requester. Next slide, please. Last item to consider is how the waiver may be terminated. The applicant may ask to voluntarily request termination through the amendment application. This board may also terminate the waiver involuntarily, meaning against the applicant's request, if the state board at any time finds by a 2/3 majority vote that the waiver previously granted has hindered school or program operations or endangered students, if it has impeded student academic achievement or supported financial misfeasance or criminal activity. In that case, the waiver shall be rescinded. No less than 20 days notice of the meeting to determine involuntary termination. Provide reasons and documents to be considered by KBE as evidence to support the termination. And the district will have the ability to respond in writing within 15 days.
And I just want to explain there, the 2/3 majority vote, that's in the statute. We typically wouldn't recommend, right, that the board put a 2/3 standard in. That's provided in the statute from the General Assembly.
Final slide.
Okay, questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have 4, Corey, but I think they'll be really quick. As you know, the board has never had the authority to waive a statute before.
Right.
Have you guys brainstormed ideas about what statutes might come before us that don't meet except for these examples?
My general view is not to hypothesize, but to take it on a case-by-case basis when applications come in. Todd may have more specific examples that he's looking ahead to.
I'm thinking facilities, maybe. We had virtual school conundrum, something like that. I don't know.
Possible. I will note that previously in the Districts of Innovation statute, which also went away, that was struck by Senate Bill 207, that was administered in Dr. Kelly Foster's office. If a district was designated a District of Innovation, it could request waiver of statutes at that point in time. So she may have some better ideas of what that looked like over the course of time and statutes that were waived.
And here she comes.
Not to put you on the spot, Dr. Foster.
Right. So both Dr. Poe and I were superintendents in
hypothetical that
both Dr. Poe and I were superintendents of Districts of Innovation, and I don't think I even realized we had statutory waiver options even back in the day.
So some of the things that we have seen come across our desk the last couple of years that didn't qualify, that maybe might come through this, I think facilities, yes, virtual possibly, but I've seen some things recently that they tried to make Districts of Innovation that didn't qualify, like maybe having a 4-day work week for teachers.
Oh, I see.
Or excuse me, 4 days of students in the district, 5 days for the teachers, things like that. So I really don't have any idea.
Yeah, I didn't either.
That's something that comes to mind that we have seen in the past that, was not permissible.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine, and that kind of leads me to my second question, Corey, and that's around workflow. Somebody is going to be tracking these, I suppose, and we'll be reviewing them, and there are expiration dates and that kind of thing. So could you talk to us about how burdensome it might be?
It'll depend on.
I want you to speculate again.
It'll depend on how many
Kelly
applications
back up.
we get.
Yeah.
The application process is already there, and we've dealt with these waiver requests before. The changes now are we've got specific forms that will hopefully streamline the work to be done because it makes it easier to review, because it's the same form identically. Previously, districts, when they would apply, they would create their application from whole cloth, and that led to very disparate application forms and requests. This will make it really similar down the line. I don't know that there will be a hugely increased number of waiver requests based on this expansion to include statutes. Again, we'll see how many that might be. The waiver review itself, the technical review, should not take an exorbitant amount of time. It's simply ensuring compliance with the strict language of the statute. Did you correctly fill out this form? Did you correctly identify why the waiver is merited? Did you correctly identify ways in which you think the school or program would benefit from this program? Then the substantive review, typically we would recommend, we would ask that the commissioner recommend approval if it meets those certain requirements set forth by SB 207, explaining how and why the school or program would benefit from it.
Thank you. Optimism noted and appreciated. To that end, on slide 9, in terms of process, I think this is probably your legal determination, but if the waiver doesn't, in fact, is not allowable under SB 207, why would we actually bring it before the board? Could we authorize your team in the review process to just kick it back?
Because the statute requires that the board approve or disapprove, we would bring it before the board and recommend disapproval for non-compliance because the board is the only one granted the authority to do so. Todd, please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's accurate. That's also the reason that you see in the regulation that if the request isn't filed within more than 45 days, that we're going to bring it to you and recommend denial instead of just denying it ourselves, because the statute says that whatever waivers we get, we have to put on the very next agenda.
Okay.
So if you all have a meeting on October 5th and we get a waiver request on October 4th, it has to be added to your agenda. But obviously we have no time to do any type of review to determine, the efficacy of that waiver. So we would bring it to you in order to comply with statute for you to take action on, but we would recommend that you deny it because we haven't had a meaningful opportunity to review it.
All right, thank you. Last one really quickly. Upon denial, is there or will there be an appeals process?
There's no appeals process designated. There's nothing prohibiting a reapplication or a corrected application, but there's no specific appeal process because there's no authority other than the board itself to which an applicant may appeal.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Question.
Other questions,
Yeah,
Randy?
question there, since Vice Chair Young brought up. So like, for example, under the old policy, we could waive seat time if we had an application there. So if I do it under statute, waiving seat time now, do I still, is it still going to require under seat time, like it became a competency based under Infinite Campus and you either got full credit for that student or you didn't if they completed or so is that an example of a waiver that under statute that I could waive the seat time requirement but not
So
have to do?
performance-based credit is also regulated as allowable. So
what the statute says is that the board cannot waive statute or administrative regulation requiring instructional time that is at least equivalent to the student instructional year. And, we already have the variable and student instructional calendar. So that looks like the board can't reduce the amount of hours below that 1,062.
Okay.
Now, maybe they could look at differences of days, but that's already an option.
Well, no, that's good that they know that, I guess, up front and guidance or whatever. So you don't get a lot of those exceptions to say, I'm doing something else for my time.
Other comments or questions?
A quick question.
Yes, Holly.
Like on something like maximum class size for special ed, like would that be something? It seems like that needs to be decided quickly. Like if you don't have enough teachers and you're just, adding some people into your special education class and needed a waiver for that, like would we be doing some of that maybe in those virtual meetings so it's not every 2 months or?
Well, my contention is the virtual meetings represent time for us to do work. And if it is timely, I could conceive that some of these issues might end up on that agenda. However, I do believe that we would be well served to be judicious in protecting that time for our learning and design and planning agenda as well. So, we've got to serve both sides of the brain here. But we also have, if we have requirements, administrative requirements that are time sensitive, then we have to use the time that we have. That would be my interpretation of it. Commissioner,
Were
what
there in
would
the
you
past
say?
very many waivers for this special, what OCL used to, it said they previously decided that.
Yeah.
So I wonder how many a year.
Yeah.
So we worked with them in putting this together. Again, it was a change in Senate Bill 207 that changed it from their approval to following this process. And OCL advised us that they receive very few requests on an annual basis.
But to add to, if there's something that the commissioner deems as emergency, it can be within that 45 days, but it'd be something that I would have to deem that would be an emergency to do that.
And I suppose the same thing's true for the kindergarten cap at 25, for example. Could they waive that?
There's no specific provision of the statute saying they couldn't waive
Okay.
that.
Steve?
One quick question on slide 12, it says to provide reasons and documents to be considered by KBE as evidence to support termination. Then it says the ability of the district to respond in writing within 15 calendar days. If there's not an appeal, what are they responding to? Or
So that's if this board proposes to terminate a waiver that was previously granted to a school district, we provide that we're going to give them notice, written notice, that we're going to have a meeting. We're going to discuss terminating your previously granted waiver, and these are the reasons. And then they have 15 days to respond to that. So you all have it when you make your decision.
Thank you for bringing this proposal, board. I'm going to put the question. I'm seeking a motion to approve 701 KAR 5170 and 701 KAR 5170E waiver request. May I have such a motion?
make the motion.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. And may I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Additional questions or comments? I will put the question then. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you so much, Corey and Todd. Appreciate your work. We now invite Dr. Kelly Foster and KDE Policy Advisor Matt Courtney to the table to present amendments to 703 KAR 5280 School Improvement Procedures. Dr. Foster.
Well, good afternoon. We are very excited to be presenting these amendments to you today. We have worked with Representative Tipton the last 2 years on his House Bill 298 that deals a lot with school improvement that was passed in this last session. And today we have a few changes, a few amendments to our school improvement reg that are going into place based on 298, and then a few other amendments to make the reg a little bit clearer for districts. I'm sorry, this microphone, to make the reg a little bit clearer for districts. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Courtney, and he is going to walk you through those changes, and then we'll be glad to take questions.
All right, good afternoon. I would encourage you to pull this up in your portal and follow along with us. In lieu of slides, we're just going to talk from the regulation today. It's been about 5 years since the board has considered this regulation. So before I begin, I just want to say you'll see some technical changes throughout. I'm not going to hit on all of those today. We're just going to focus on the substantive content changes. And so the first change to discuss here today begins at the top of page 4, with our definition of school improvement assistance. You'll see here that we have added and leadership development to the end of that definition. And through our work with Representative Tipton, he's very interested in ensuring that we are supporting our leaders in this work. And so we wanted to make that very clear in the regulation that our school improvement assistance includes intentional leadership development. The next change is on page 5 at the bottom. Page 5 has the information about our audit teams. So when a school is identified for comprehensive support and improvement status, they receive what we call a diagnostic review. The statute calls that an audit. So this is the list of folks who are part of that audit team. You'll see a couple of changes here. You'll see first that we have added a clarification that the parent or legal guardian should have had a school-age child within the last 3 years, so either currently or within the last 3 years. We have removed the requirement for university representation. And then we have also added a minority representation component. So if a school has 8% or more minority students, then there must be a minority representative on the audit team. That 8% or more threshold is a very common threshold that we use for SBDM councils and many other minority thresholds within our regulations. In the middle of page 6, you'll see just a few words struck out, but this actually is a pretty substantive change. You'll see we've removed the language at the discretion of the audit team in line 9. This is related to our analysis of the principal's capacity to lead the turnaround process. This has been an optional process in the past, so audit teams would go through their audit process, come back and discuss whether or not they think the principal has the skills currently to lead the turnaround process, and then they would make a recommendation to the superintendent about whether or not that person is ready to go or if they need intensive support or professional development. With the legislative change this session, that is no longer optional. It is now required by the statute. So that's got a pretty significant change for the striking of just a few words there. Moving ahead to the middle of page 9. So when a school is identified for comprehensive support and improvement status, the school gets a diagnostic review and so does the district. And since we're switching back to annual identification this year, we wanted to add to the regulation that no district, regardless of the number of schools identified for CSI, shall have more than one audit every 3 years. So if a school, if a district has a school enter CSI status this fall, then they'll get that diagnostic review because they have a new school entering the status. If they have another school enter the status next year, the district does not get another diagnostic review. So only the school would get that. And then the district would be eligible for a new diagnostic review every 3 years ongoing until they no longer have CSI schools. Okay, page 12. Starting at line 7, this is where we talk about our turnaround team and the development of the turnaround plan. So this is another substantive change. You'll see a big chunk of language struck out of the middle of this page. The legislative change this session removed what we have referred to in the past as the vendor list. So in the past, we have been required to do an RFP to solicit potential vendors for school districts to choose from. We were also always an option for technical assistance for schools, but the legislative change has removed that option for districts. So now KDE is the sole provider of turnaround technical assistance for our schools. That doesn't mean that they can't work with other schools on other things. So they can still use their school improvement funds to bring a contractor in for professional development, to help them to establish PLC protocols, to help them choose curriculum, all of the different things that schools do. But in terms of developing that turnaround plan and monitoring that turnaround plan, we are the sole vendor at this point. A little further down on this page, line 17, you'll see some new language around how that turnaround team is selected. So this is right out of the statute. Those team members are selected by the department in collaboration with the superintendent, and then also must be approved by the local board of education or the charter school governing board. So the statutory language envisions a little more collaboration and going all the way to the board of education, the local board of education, in establishing that turnaround team. At the bottom of page 12, continuing into page 13, you'll see a new chunk of language here related to the responsibilities of the turnaround team. This is language that has been added to align with current guidance and practice in our schools. So CSI schools have two teams. They have a turnaround team, which leads the turnaround process in the school. They also have an advisory leadership team, which is the replacement for the SBDM Council. I'll talk more about that second team in a moment. But there's a lot of confusion about the roles and responsibilities of these two teams, what each team is supposed to do, how often they meet, things like that. And so we have put some language in here guiding what a turnaround team is supposed to do. So just to briefly cover that, they lead the development and initial implementation of the turnaround plan. They provide support and capacity building in instructional leadership, curriculum, and school level system building for improvement. They monitor the school's progress towards those turnaround plan goals. They advise the superintendent and principal on staffing, scheduling, resource allocation, and professional learning, all aligned to those turnaround objectives. They collaborate with the school principal to establish systems that support evidence-based instructional practices and equitable learning environments. They provide relevant professional learning for teachers, provide support. So this is an important one. At the end of the CSI process, they provide support in transitioning those improvement efforts from the turnaround team to the advisory leadership team. So when they exit, the turnaround team leaves, but the ALT stays in place. So they transition that work, as well as any other activities deemed necessary by the commissioner to support the turnaround in that school. So you can see here, we've really tried to make it very clear that the turnaround team supports the turnaround work, the turnaround plan, the turnaround objectives. At the bottom of page 13, you'll see some more struck language that is, again, related to that turnaround vendor. You'll see strikes related to turnaround vendor in several places throughout the regulation. The next substantive change is on page 15. And this is where we get to that advisory leadership team. So as a reminder, Comprehensive Support and Improvement Schools, after their diagnostic review, their SBDM Council loses its authority and it is replaced by the advisory leadership team. And again, there's some confusion about what that team does and what that team is responsible for. So we've clarified that here. First, starting on line 13, we have put in some new language to make it clear that when we say open to the public, which is the old language, we mean in compliance with the Open Meetings Act or its successor. So these teams, just like an SBDM Council meeting follows open meetings, so should the ALT. And they must also, again, just like an SBDM Council, they must also determine the frequency and agenda for their meetings, and that should be posted following those open meeting rules. We've clarified here in line 17 that this team functions as a consultative body. So per the statute, this team does not have authority to make decisions. They are a consultative body. And so how do they consult? This is the language that you'll see on the rest of 15 and the top of 16. So they consult by serving as a representative voice of the school community during the turnaround process, providing support for systems that build capacity in school leadership, promoting a positive school culture focused on distributed leadership, continuous improvement, and high expectations for all students, supporting the continual use of evidence-based decision-making. So you'll see we've struck the phrase data-driven, replaced that with evidence-based to align to federal law. Supporting transparent communication with stakeholders by reviewing progress data and helping to disseminate key information. So just like that SBDM Council, they are a conduit of information back to the community. And then retaining institutional knowledge to support the continuity of improvement after the departure. So we said the turnaround team passes that knowledge to the ALT picks up the football and keeps running, if you will. Further down the page, you'll see another strike here related to that turnaround list. On page 17, you'll see a new section 9. This has been added to comply with new requirements in the state statute that says that all CSI schools must participate in professional learning activities deemed necessary by the department to support the implementation of evidence-based instructional practices, materials, and assessments, and that they must adopt a evidence-based curriculum and high-quality instructional materials, and they must complete that step within 18 months from the notice of their identification. We feel like 18 months gives them enough time to complete their diagnostic review, kind of process that, and then do a thorough search for the appropriate curriculums and tools that they might need. In section 10, so our new section 10 here, you'll see that we've tweaked just a little bit the definition of more rigorous intervention. So if a CSI school does not exit the status or make any annual improvement for 2 consecutive years or exit after 3 years, then they become what we consider a more rigorous intervention school, or they become eligible for more rigorous intervention. This is not actually a change to the definition. It's just a change in the language. If you look ahead to the top of 18, you'll see we've struck some language. This is a definition that, for lack of a better phrase, is kind of Frankensteined together over multiple legislative changes. And so what we do is we say out loud, make any improvement after 2 years or exit after 3. So we've just aligned that to actually match what we say. So it's not a change in definition, it's just sort of a cleanup there. Okay, at the bottom of 17, you'll see we've added some language, evaluation of the district support for the implementation of the turnaround plan. This is added to the list of things that an MRI school is required to do. So we will provide that technical assistance. That technical assistance will include now a review of the district support. So it's not just focused on what's happening in the school, it's also focusing on how is that district supporting that school's turnaround plan. At the top of page 18, you'll see just the strike throughs. That's just cleanup language, like I've already mentioned. Starting on line 10, you'll see the same language from the schools being applied to the district. And you'll see that we've done that 3-year diagnostic review cycle for the district has been carried over here too. So even if a school if a district has a school become MRI, that 3-year window for their diagnostic review still applies. We don't want that district going through continual diagnostic reviews. And then the last substantive change you'll see begins on the very bottom of page 21 and continues on to page 22. And this deals with SBDM Council making decision-making authority reinstatement. So we've already talked about how they lose their authority after their diagnostic review. They're replaced by the ALT. After 2 years from exiting the status, if they don't re-enter the status, the statute says that they can have their authority reinstated by the local Board of Education. And there's been a lot of confusion about how that should happen. We get a lot of calls from boards and from superintendents about, well, how do we reinstate the authority and what does that look like? So we've put some language in here to really specify what that looks like. So the first piece here, within 60 days from the date of eligibility listed on their exit notification letter, the local Board of Education shall consider the issue of school-based decision-making authority reinstatement at a regularly scheduled school board meeting. So they will when they get their letter, they'll have a date. That date is 2 years out from the day the letter is sent to them that they've exited the status. And they have 60 days from that date to have a board meeting and determine whether or not they want to reinstate that council's authority. If they do reinstate the council's authority, then the council will be reestablished following its existing procedures. So the council had procedures before it lost its authority for selecting members, for filling vacancies, all of those things. Those are still on file with the district. If they're not, for whatever reason, we have them too. So they would reestablish that council following those existing priorities. So we've had some councils who were under the notion they had to really start from scratch, as if you were opening a brand new school.
New policies.
Yeah, new policies from scratch. That's not an efficient use of anyone's time. So we're going to just allow them to re-up the way that they had been. If the local board declines to reinstate council's authority, then we've added some requirements for that board. They must provide a rationale for declining to reinstate the council's authority. They must provide a list of criteria that the school must meet in order to seek reconsideration of that decision. They must also provide a date at which time the school may seek reconsideration. So a council or a local board of education can't say, no, you don't get your council back. That's the end of it. They have to explain why they're not reinstating council authority, and they have to say, you can ask us again in 6 months, in a year, when you've met these benchmarks, whatever it is. So it provides some more of a due process approach for that council authority reinstatement. And then you'll see one more here on line 14. So that advisory leadership team stays in place until a new council is approved. So if the board decides not to reinstate authority, that advisory leadership team still is in place. They're in place until an SBDM council replaces them. At the bottom of page 22 and all of page 23 and 24, you'll see just a bunch of struck language. That is all related to the turnaround vendor application process that has now been removed from statute. With that, those are all of our substantive changes to this regulation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Just one question.
Ready?
On the different statutes, I noticed that, it said public schools or charter schools. And with the recent opinion, do they still require us to have charter schools in the language?
So because charter schools are still in the statute, we have to have a provision for them because a charter school can be a CSI school. So even though we don't have them, the reason we don't have them is because of funding mechanisms and our regulation, but they're still in the statute. So we've left them here so that if the legislature were to find a new way and bring new funding mechanisms or what have you, it's already in place. You wouldn't have to revisit this.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Well, we thank you for what looks like a very thorough proposal. I would ask the board for a motion to approve pardon me, the amendments to 703 KAR 5280 school improvement procedures. May I have such a motion?
I'll offer that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
And Holly will second. Any questions before I put the question? Thank you. All in favor of approving the amendments to 703 KAR 5280 school improvement procedures, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Penny, and thank you, Courtney. This is very subdued considering this. Commissioner, please keep us informed on how we proceed implementing these, operating with these revisions. Now we have an opportunity to hear from Dr. Thomas Tucker and Chief Academic Officer Mickey Ray Marinelli and KDE Policy Advisor Sarah Medley regarding 704 KAR 3440 Primary School Program Guidelines. And this is for your consideration, board. We'll be asking you to approve a recommended proposal. Dr. Tucker?
Yes, thank you, Chair, members of KBE, Commissioner Fletcher, and especially to our newest board members had an opportunity to talk with our two newest board members. And I want to welcome you all aboard. We have amendments to 704 KAR 3.440 Primary School Program Guidelines. We have a couple technical amendments to avoid expiration and to align to related statutory requirements. We'll turn it over to Mickey and Sarah.
Thank you so much. I want to begin by saying this reg has been in place for a good while, and its purpose is to assist schools and districts by providing guidelines and methods for verifying successful completion of the primary school program for students prior to the entrance of grade 4. So this relates to K through 3 students. And this is a reg that was set to expire, as Dr. Tucker mentioned, but for this one, we did have some technical changes that we felt we needed to make before putting that back into place into law for your approval. And so if you take a look at this, the amendments conform to current statutory requirements, which do impact students enrolled in the primary school program. For section 1, we updated definitions. We put those in alphabetical order rather than occurrence of appearance within the regulation. For sections 2 and 3, they were very technical in nature, but I did want to call out the revision to section 3. So we've added at the very beginning, eligible children as defined in KRS 158.031 who attend the primary school program may advance through the program without regard to age or in a specific grade level. And that was just to align with the current statute that's in place. So 158.031 guides all of this work that's within our regulation. And then in section 4, we made some amendments to align the curricular focus to Read to Succeed into numeracy counts. So you'll see new references to 158.305, 158.8402, and then there's also a reference to 158.791, which provides the legislative goals for reading and for mathematics. And I'm going to turn it over to Sarah now to talk a little bit about our intent in section 5.
Hello. For section 5, we are removing a old reporting requirement for a couple of reasons. One is to be less burdensome on districts because of the number of reporting requirements that they already have. Also, that was removed from statute in 1998. And so while we were doing our review, we felt it was appropriate to remove it as well.
We're happy to address any questions that you may have at this time.
Questions, comments? I kept scrolling through the strike-throughs. That was, but it is because it's no longer required.
You don't want to keep the really old stuff in there.
Right. Thank you so much. We're now ready to entertain a motion to approve amendments to 704 KAR 3440 Primary School Program Guidelines. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved, Diane.
Thank you, Diane. Is there a second? Julie, thank you so much. Any other questions or comments? I'll put the question then. All in favor of approving amendments to 704 KAR 3440, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you so much. Motion carries. Appreciate it. Now we're going to move into Kentucky minimum specification for school buses. Matt Ross, Jay Ritter, Roger Banks from the Office of Finance and Operations. Please come forward.
Bringing sexy back.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
My name is Matt Ross. I'm the Associate Commissioner in the Office of Finance and Operations.
Shay Ritter, Division of District Support.
Roger Banks, People Transportation Branch.
So I'll try to kick us off here to give a little context for our new members. The school minimum school bus specification is an annual item. Really, Kentucky has seen 2 of the worst school bus accidents in the nation in 1958 and then again in 1988. And so out of those tragedies, and I think pretty short thereafter from the 1958, we saw this sort of concept of minimum school bus specifications that are applicable to Kentucky. And so annually, a group of school district representatives, transportation directors, manufacturers of school buses, they convene. KDE brings them together. They review the specifications. Those specifications are then updated based on the consensus of that group. And then those specifications are used upon approval. They're used by the Finance Cabinet to update their mass state price contracts for school buses. So those specifications are then reflected in the requirements of those contracts. So when a school district wants to buy a new school bus, those new school buses and those prices reflect the minimum specifications. So with that being said, I'll let my team here sort of take you through the changes. I don't think there were a lot of substantive changes this year, but I'll let them
discuss that further.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. So if it's okay, I'll just go through a couple of the changes that were made this year, just give you an idea of context. They remove all obsolete engines and transmissions from the list of approved equipment. And if you ever do get an opportunity to flip through the bus specification manual, it's extremely technical. It's down into nuts and bolts and the type of material used on seats, fireproofing, exits, windows, all these things are incredibly important. And not only about safety, but durability. The input of these folks that are on this committee is very important to the department, so we can get updates on, how things are working out in the field and day to day. If they notice a pattern of certain types of LED lights look better at night, you can see them further. Of course, these buses are on the road sometimes late at night, early in the morning in the dark, so that's always a concern. And to that point, they added some language about strobe lights, the placement of strobe lights, metal casings for strobe lights, also the flooring to make a more consistent walking surface so students don't slip and fall. And as I've learned over the years, this process has been in place for many, many, many years. It's a wonderful process. You can learn a lot about how we build our buses and why we build them the way we build them. I don't know if Roger has anything to add.
Summed it up.
And the other thing we try to really keep in mind is the cost. Any changes you make to a bus, if we add any type of mandated material or anything like that, it can increase the cost of the bus. So we also keep that in mind and try to balance that. But primarily the goal is always going to be safety and durability. I'm glad to answer any questions, Chair.
Questions?
Just quickly, what about retrofitting on the changes?
So that's an option. These are going to be for newly manufactured buses. And we've noticed too, a couple of years ago, we had talked about, camera systems, which are getting more and more common.
Right.
And everything kind of snowballs into, they may retrofit a fleet with a feature that helps maybe keep students away from the front of the bus, for example. So there's flexibility. They can always, retrofit their older fleet. We're happy to issue guidance to that effect as well, especially if it's a good change that keeps the kids safe.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments, questions? And several groups were consulted, as you see in the staff note,
yes, ma'am,
including LSAC. Then I would ask for a motion, pardon me, to approve the 2026 Kentucky minimum specifications for school buses. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. I will ask all in favor of approving the 2026 Kentucky minimum specifications for school buses, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. The next item concerns the Education Technology System, KETS, operational plan, the operational plan for 25-26. Today we have joining us Associate Commissioner David Couch, Division Director Mike Leadingham, and Chief Digital Officer Marty Park. Please.
Thank you. Saying that we're the last item on the agenda, just so you know, I did talk, normally they close at 8 here, but I did get an extension till 9 o'clock. I want to talk about that.
Anybody surprised?
I know
He'll be
someone
here by
talked
himself.
away from the table, right?
Harper panicked just a little bit.
Thank you, David.
So Marty's to my left and Mike's to my right. They and their team spent a lot of time putting together the information in the staff notes. So I wanted them to be available if you have any detailed questions that I couldn't address. So this is an item that comes before the board every year since 1992. The item that you'll be approving is just the $15.4 million in KETS funds, the Kentucky Education Technology System. However, having presented this for a couple of decades, typically the boards are interested, what about all the other money? And what is going on with education technology? So I always use this as an opportunity to make you aware of the other funding sources that go toward education technology, even though you're not part of approving that, but just aware of it. and just the general health of education technology throughout our state. So I'm going to be sharing that with you. You already have a lot of the information. You're about to highlight a couple items here. We also use the opportunity to talk about the funding needed for the program, the additional budget request, and that's in this document as well. Very appreciative of the board making this a top 5 funding priority for the next session. So I'm looking forward to that as we kind of go into the next session. Within the board agenda book was an infographic. That's feedback we have from our districts every year, from our students, from our teachers, from our parents. We use a variety of ways to collect that. We update that every January, and we'll be in the process soon of providing a new piece of information that as soon as we get it, we post it up on our website. I also provide you what I call our greatest hits album, our timeline since 1992, to kind of give you a feel for where we've been and also where we're going. I also want to take this opportunity, although it wasn't at the time available, to highlight some of the things that were in the APA audit, the Audit of Public Accounts, that were technology related. That were part of our noteworthy accomplishments that I think is worth kind of giving you a health check. So their comments were the Kentucky Education Technology System, KETS, is highly regarded as a forward-leaning, innovative approach to statewide school technology. KD's technology functions are highly regarded by district superintendents. Numerous systems and technology resources are provided statewide, and KD facilitates and collaborates between districts. The Kentucky Education Technology System standards enable the Commonwealth and consistency amongst the Kentucky public schools and districts. And I also say it helps drive down costs significantly because we use the buying power at the state level. We save 50 to 60% of what districts would normally pay by doing that at the state level. KD equips school districts statewide with technology systems and services that most other state departments of education do not provide. KD provides state funding and support of these resources. So I would say close to 0 other states do that to the scale and the effectiveness that we do in the United States. Kentucky's education technology effort is well organized and planned under the umbrella of KETS, the Kentucky Education Technology System. Some of the common technology functions and capabilities provided to public schools across the Commonwealth are, and it lists a lot of the shared services that we provide at a high level to all school districts across the state. Since creating the Kentucky Education Technology System in 1992, the Office of Education Technology has strived to be a leader in innovative K-12 education technology with a mindset for continuous improvement. Our Office of Education Technology partners with school leadership and external vendors to provide effective digital learning solutions for teachers and students, while also ensuring equitable access to learning technologies across the districts. And lastly, they talk about our funding needs for education technology going forward. Discussions on technology have centered on the technology systems for both administrative and instructional to attend the needs of the school district to provide financial support where needed going forward. So those were some of the highlights of the APA's audit. That also goes with the health check that we want to provide. I do want to also make you aware, I know we were talking about the things we'd like for you to attend. On April 24th, in 2026, we have our state championship for our school technology leadership program. It was 3 or 4 years ago, actually, we had a Board of Education meeting during that event. But just like all the other the cool things, you're talking about the Future Farmers of America event, all those are really cool to attend. Definitely want to put a play on there. I know we'll have been on your schedule to see that. If you've never seen that or it's been a while, definitely encourage you because you see the added value that technology brings to the learning process for students and teachers once you see that firsthand. We also identify in the staff note a criticality. If we take a look at the funding cliff that we are now facing, is before the COVID, we were $150 million underfunded. And when COVID happened, there was a lot of money went to technology, which we're very grateful for. But the chart in the staff note shows we're heading down that path to being severely underfunded again. And even this year, we are $30 million underfunded. So we dipped down below the basic need that we need, and we're expecting to go down below that. So we've laid that out for you as well. So I do want to circle back. You're mainly required to approve the $15.4 million. We've laid out where all the other funding sources go. To be honest with you, there is no other DOE in the United States that can do that for their board, that lays out every kind of funding source for their board or for their commissioner. So this is unique information that you have. So it gives you a good snapshot of the funding that we have and where it's going. So I'll pause there to see if you have any kind of questions or comments.
Questions and comments. Motion that I will seek as the board's approval for KET's operational management resources of 15.4 million for 25-26 school year. That's the motion I will speak. So I am going to put that out there and ask again, questions, comments. Dr. Todd.
Move approval.
Move approval. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Julie, you second. All right, now I will ask again. Questions and comments, debate.
Any update on E-rate or anything happening with E-rate at the federal level?
Well, it's good news. The Supreme Court ruled in favor
Yep.
of keeping E-rate the way it is. That was a pretty major achievement, for us. That's over $56 million annually for school districts with 90% discounts. And Kentucky's always been a top 5 state. If you take a look at our ADA of maximizing that program, so it's been pretty devastating for that to happen. The money that was released, it was before held back, that was allowed with ESSER funds. That's been a big important thing for us going forward. The title funds being released is a big thing because that funds a lot of our digital learning coaches in districts, which really helps teachers maximize technology and instruction. So all those are good news items. Plus, you guys made KET's a top 4 funding project, so we've had kind of hit the trifecta for funding for that. So it's good news.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Dr. Todd, you ready for me to call the question?
Ready to go for it.
All right, let's take a vote. All in favor of approving the operational plan, operational resources of $15.4 million for the 25-26 school year, please say aye.
Aye.
If there are any opposed, say nay. You got it.
Yep.
Thank you. This is, I suspect that this is one of those topics that could keep us here at the table for quite a while because there's so many dimensions and aspects of technology that are fascinating and essential, and getting more essential. I mean, talk about creating a community of continuous learners. This is an area where I feel as though I will forever be a learner, if not a Luddite.
Luddite.
I do want to thank the board for what has been just a really productive meeting. It has been substantive, it has been engaging, and it's also been inspiring. But now I need a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Steve. All right. Steve, and I think Mr. McKinney wants to second that motion. And without debate, I'm going to put the question. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think the ayes have it. Thank you so much, Lord. Thank you so much to our staff and the audience as well.